Ryan was always larger than life, and you knew it when he walked in the room. So that's kind of the impact we want to have, and I miss him like crazy. It's good just to live life and enjoy the moment because tomorrow's not promised, man.
Welcome back to Podcast on Wheels. And today we have one of my good friends, just one state north of us, up in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, a senior loan officer, branch manager. Jamie, welcome to Podcast on Wheels, brother.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here. Love what you do, and can't wait to chat a little bit.
Awesome. Jamie has been doing this for about 30 years. So when you get a guy with this kind of experience, I know he doesn't look like he's old enough to do it for 30 years, but that's what he told me. Okay. So Jamie, when people go into buying a home, sometimes it can be terrifying, overwhelming, overthinking. What are some things that you guys make sure that they're aware of while they're making that type of move?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things I've had a lot of luck with and really helps put people's mind at ease is I'm a big in person kind of guy, which, not everybody loves that or has time for it these days. But I feel like if I can sit down with somebody, meet with them face to face, man, it makes all the difference in the world. I get a chance to explain stuff to them, show stuff to them that they, will help kind of calm them down and say, okay, that's how this works. I feel a whole lot better about that now. With today's world the way it is, technology kind of does everything. So I'm perfectly fine with somebody saying, hey, I'm comfortable moving forward. Shoot me the docs so I can electronically sign them and move forward. I don't need you to explain anything to me. So I deal with people like that every day as well. But people that are nervous or have any kind of reservations at all, I usually say, hey, let's get together. And I kind of cover, I mean, we do loans everywhere, but I mean, if they're within driving distance of an hour or two, I'll drive out, sit down, meet with them. No problem at all. Come to the office, I'll go out and meet with them. I've met everywhere from, the typical Starbucks meeting to truck stops to, wherever we've got to sit down and talk about it. But I think, with all the stuff that's thrown at people, all the social media, all the news media, kind of, scare tactics of this is what's going on, getting to sit down and talk to somebody in person gives them a lot better feeling of, okay, this is the guy I'm dealing with. This is who I call if I've got something that I need to ask, and that just makes a whole lot, makes a big difference. Makes people think a whole lot, clearer and understand what they're dealing with, and not kind of. A lot of people have hesitation to call people that are mortgage people or bankers because we're going to ask all those questions and dig deep into finances. So there's a lot of hesitation of just not wanting to share everything. So it takes a little bit of time, get to know people. Once they know you, they feel a little bit better sharing with you.
Yeah. And let's address that because I've had some real estate guys on the show. I actually had a in-person meeting with one of the guys that helps me with some investment stuff yesterday. And
Mhm.
one of the things that they both thanked me for was they're like, Brian, you just tell us like it is. Like you just say the truth. And for me, and I know that you operate the same way, Jamie, it's like if you tell me the whole story, I've probably been there before in this industry, and I may have a solution that you're not aware of. So do you
Yeah,
ever feel like
yeah.
that's the case? Like they don't really want you to dig in, but if they kind of open the book, you may have a very simple solution for them.
Oh man, that's spot on. I mean, I think mortgages and insurance, the more we talk, there's probably a lot of similarities there because, the more info you have, there's so many solutions out there. But if you've only got a portion of the picture, you're trying to fit it into this little box. So, and that's what it's all about is having all of that data. Whether it's insurance, you need to know as much as you possibly can about history and habits and all that kind of stuff. With mortgage, it's the same way. I mean, a lot of times people just want to give you the snippet. I mean, I'll use the example of, bank statements. People are like, hey, you got to see a copy of my bank statements. And, they'll send it in and then there's transfers and withdrawals to 6 other accounts. And we're like, what about these accounts? Where'd these come from? Oh, well, this is that and that's that, but I mean, if I had
Right.
those other accounts, I'd see everything that's going on or, whatever it is. There's so many things like that. And, I think sometimes it's hard in our world to have people drop those defenses. Some of it's good, some of it's bad because we've got so much information at our fingertips that we've got a lot of info. But then there are a lot of scams out there. There are a lot of companies online where they just say, "Hey, you're approved." They haven't even looked at your documents yet, but they're just, so then
Right.
you get people that are in the process,
Yeah.
and it can get tricky. So then
Yeah.
once they've been
Yeah. Yeah.
burned, or they,
All right. So you've got families and you've got people that you're building the rapport with, and you're like, okay, tell me the whole picture, tell me what's going on. So have you always been able to stay grounded and understand and see solutions that other people can't? What part of the experience, or maybe some people that helped you, or some stories there of how you've helped people go, this is where I should be, because I know you and I know that I can trust you and I know that people should trust you, but that doesn't mean that they're going to. So,
yeah, I think the greatest teacher of all is experience. Sometimes it's hard to have that on the front end, but just over the years going through it, I think I've gotten better and better at recognizing what I'm good at, what I bring to the table, and how I can help people. I haven't always done everything perfect, never do, but just being able to sit down and listen to people. And then I'm really big on feedback. So I'm really big on, after somebody goes through the process, kind of going back and talking to them about, what was great about it. At what point during this process did you feel like, okay, I know we're going to be able to buy this home. I know it's going to be on the terms that I'm comfortable with. So constructive criticism and feedback is really big on with myself and my whole team. So, we get together, we have daily meetings, but then we also have once a month where we get together in person because a couple of my people are remote. So we get together at least once a month, share a meal, and then we just sit and talk about positives and negatives of kind of what's going on. You know, if somebody's been upset about something, what point did they get upset about it? How did we fix it? And then how can we prevent that from happening to somebody else? So we really spend a lot of time just trying to not say, man, that deal's done. Glad they're in their home. Let's move on. We take it a step further and say, okay, let's look back and see, was everything perfect through that process? Were we smooth? Did we make it? Because we want to help as many people as we can. So it's not just about getting that one person at the closing table. The faster we can get them there, we can help others. And then they're going to tell people about us. So I think, the biggest part of bringing comfort is knowing what's going on with people. Because if one person has an issue with something, there's somebody else that's probably going to be there. So kind of fine tuning those systems and going, okay, how can we help them be more comfortable next time if we have a similar person, similar, situation. With insurance, I'm sure you deal with it too. There's all kinds of people out there, all kinds of different personality types, all kinds of people that, a lot of people that are very black and white, very matter of fact, like you said, just tell me what's going on. And I think that's the biggest thing with facts is just to tell people. Interest rates are what they are. So I don't spend any time dancing around what an interest rate is. You know, here's your credit score. Here, and if I get a chance to meet somebody in person, I'm going to show them the rate sheet. I'm going to say, here's where I get my pricing from. Here's where I'm coming up with what the rate is. Here's what we can buy it down to. Here's how it works. Um, Me kind of doing warm and fuzzies around that kind of stuff isn't going to change it. I'm not going to get the feds or the banks who lend the money to change how they lend and what they lend at. So I'm better off if I just tell you what it is, but let's talk about, are you comfortable there? And that's the whole thing. You get into stuff with mortgages all the time with mortgage rates and stuff. It's about comfort. People get hung up on, I want to tell my buddy at work that my rate's this or my rate's that. What really comes down to is, what's that payment? Is it fixed or not? So you know what you're in, and are you comfortable in that payment? Because interest rates come and go, refinances happen. We may not know when it's going to happen. We can't predict exactly when it's going to happen. But if you're comfortable, worst case scenario, nothing ever changes from the day you buy this house. Can you do this payment for the time you're in there, and your family still do the things it wants to do? Then we move forward. But it's really about finding that comfort.
That's some very sound advice, sir, as I knew you would have, because as I think back to the times that I've purchased houses or I've been involved in that experience, some of them have been, oh, we really like this. And this is an emotional, we don't really care. We can afford this. And maybe I should have listened to a guy like you say, but are you comfortable? Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
know you can? Because maybe my first house didn't turn out like we was planned. But like as you go through those experiences and leaning on a guy like you. So you talk about your team there.
Yeah.
And you're in Murfreesboro in Tennessee, but you can help people everywhere. Your team, how many people are on the team? And you like that in person, that touch, that daily, that feedback, brother. I'm going back to my baseball coaching days. I'm like, okay, we played a
Yeah.
game, we had a post game speech. This is what we did well. This is what we could improve on, or maybe this is where we really stunk it up, right? This is where we
Yeah.
missed, and it wasn't that customer's fault for getting upset, and it's not the umpire's fault for blowing the call. We could have handled it different earlier. I love that. So to join your team or be a part of that team, like how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, so we've kind of structured ourselves to where we've got different people in different roles to try to make that experience great from beginning to end. So directly, reporting to me, I have three people that are part of my team. I have a girl that works with me that's been with me for almost 5 years now, and she's done basically everything from start to finish. And now her role is more of she does a lot of marketing. She sets up events. She handles client relationships, agent relationships, all that kind of stuff. So she's running calendars and making sure everybody's where they need to be. So she kind of oversees everybody and keeps everybody in check, is what I tell her. So she's great at that. And then I have an application specialist, another girl that works for us. So she's front end. So if I'm sitting here talking to you, somebody wants to apply for a mortgage, they get her on the phone, start giving them details so that I'm not, the third person they talk to. They want to apply for a mortgage or they've got stuff, they're going to call right away. We want somebody there to pick up the phone, go over everything with them, and get things moving. And then I also have a guy that works with me that's a licensed loan officer, and he functions as a production assistant. So he basically takes files from start to finish. He's licensed, so he can talk about rates. He can talk about that kind of stuff and make sure people get their questions answered. And so we've been together. This team's fairly new how we've structured it because we've had a lot of changes, and so it's been coming up on a year and a half or so where we've kind of fine tuned that stuff. And then I also have one processor. So a little bit that's different about us. I have one processor that touches every single file we do. So if you're buying a home, we know the processor that's going to be working on that file. It's not a round robin. We've got two underwriters, and they underwrite every single file that we do. So having those dedicated people means we know what that underwriter's looking for. I know I can pick up the phone and call her and say, "Hey, let me explain this to you." So that's, a big part of our team is just consistency. And like I said, those systems that you put in place where you want to get better and help people feel, taken care of throughout the process. So it's been nice kind of finding those different personalities. And you talked a little bit about coaching. I'm a former baseball coach as well, and I love
Mhm.
having the different personalities, kind of figuring out what drives everybody. And then, man, sports just ties to everything in business. So I mean, you can't say enough about that. The greatest coaches in the world, whether you like them all the way around or not, the Sabans and the Belichicks and that kind of stuff. They're always looking at a victory of how can we improve on the next one. So it's not even about, hey, that upset customer, how do we fix them? Even if it goes smooth from beginning to end, what can we do to get better? There's always that next level to get to. So I pride myself a lot in figuring that out, never being content, and kind of figuring out what can we do as a team to get better every time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I knew that about you and the baseball background, and as I'm listening, I'm like, okay. And as people hear this and they're watching this and they're like, okay, who do I go talk to for my mortgage? Well, let's go to the guy who, for you baseball fans, he's got a hitting coach, he's got a pitching coach, he's got a bench coach, he's got a recovery coach, he's got everybody. And then he's managing the team, and they also checking and balancing each other, and they know the system. So if this plays in place, this is how the underwriter is going to play it in the future. And this is like that network. I don't think outside people appreciate the value of that and what Team Steelman brings with that network to know. A lot of times you talk to somebody and they don't know who the underwriter and the processor and all
Yeah.
these things. And then, oh, you're not approved or you are approved. Or like you said, they don't get real information. So that's what you guys like.
Yeah.
I'm hearing it. It's just consistency. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
it's so much about in our world with underwriters and things like that. People say, it's like putting a puzzle together, and it's all in presentation. So you may have all of the information, but if you don't present it to the right way, underwriters are humans too, and they have rules that they have to follow. But it's always good to present a nice picture and make them understand what's going on, so they're not going back and saying, "What's this? What's that?" So it's huge to have that consistency.
yeah. And I've heard this said, and I don't know who to give credit for the quote, but a genius is somebody that solves problems before they happen. And I'm
There you
giving
go.
you that title because, well, maybe you didn't in the beginning, as said, you didn't know what to look for, but now you are an expert in this field. You are a genius when it comes to this, and you're not going to be stumped. There's just going to be adjustments. And like you said, those adjustments are typically out of your control. And those are the numbers.
Mhm.
This is your credit score you earned, bro. Like that's what you
Yeah,
got. And that's how we base it, right?
yeah, absolutely.
So, but you know, it's cool. The mortgage stuff, that's what pays the bills. That's what takes care of your family, your team. And what I love to hear is how you do all of that. And
Yeah.
then, we've talked about some family stuff and tell us a little bit about your family and I'm trying to remember, you got some kids here, there, like tell us a little bit about that, you as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. So married, my wife Stacy, and we have a blended family. So we have 6 kids between us, and now they range now from 30 to 22. So they're kind of right there together. And then we've got 2 grandchildren, an 8-year old and an 8-month old. So we're getting to be grandparents. I feel at a pretty young age, which has actually been really really cool. But yeah, we came together about 16 years ago, and we've got 4 boys, 2 girls, ranging in that age from 30. My oldest son, Ryan, we lost him in 2016. He passed away. He'd be coming up on 31 this year. Hard to believe. But so, yeah, and then we've got daughter in South Carolina with the 8-month old. Everybody else now is pretty local. My stepson that lived in Alaska for a couple years when the grandbaby was born, they're down here now. So we've got everybody pretty close around here, except for the daughter in South Carolina. But yeah, pretty tight knit family. Get together as often as we can, and just really looking forward to the next phase of life. Grandparents is cooler than I ever thought it would be. Everybody used to tell me when I was younger, man,
Yeah.
like you love your kids, but grandkids are something else. And it's kind of like, as a parent, I was always like, man, I love my kids. So I'm sure grandkids will be cool too. But they're a whole different level. They're really cool.
It's funny. I had a conversation with my mom last night because I'm 45 and my kids are 9 and 7. And
Hmm.
I was talking to her briefly last night, and she said, "You just don't understand." My youngest had had a baseball game, and she got to watch her 7-year-old grandson play
Hmm.
coach pitch baseball, and that was just the highlight of her week and probably month.
Oh
And
man.
she'll come to the games, but she's like, "Ron, you just don't get it," and you're saying the same thing. So it's like,
Yeah.
I told her last night. I said, "Well, Mom, I'll be 56 when my oldest is 20, so I'm hoping it's a few years." Okay, so I'm hoping to wait, Jamie.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned that you have a son that would be 31. So tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ryan, he passed away in 2016. Unfortunately, motorcycle crash. It was, he was just a kid that just loved life, man. Was kind of that little boy. If you've got boys that had no boundaries and was limitless and brave and no fear, and it never changed with him. He never reeled it in at all. Lived life to the fullest. Unfortunate accident, but man, probably taught me more in the 21 years that he was here than anybody in my life ever has. I've always been kind of a pretty reserved guy, and I guess I am to some point, still. But I always think about him. One of the biggest things that keeps me moving forward, in his memory is the zest that he had for life, man. He just was loved everybody around him. I heard so many stories from, at 21, kids are going through. not sharing everything with you. Obviously, as a parent, they're getting out on their own and that kind of stuff. So some of the stories I've heard over the last 8 years of some impact that he had at such a young age has just been remarkable. Um, it's just mind blowing. And so yeah, we try to remember him. We talk about him as much as we can. One of the things I've learned through just gradually moving through grief as I have, and I feel like it's something you never get out of, but you take steps. One of the biggest things I've learned is talking about him, keeping his memory alive, and not being scared to talk about him. So much people with grief keep everything inside and think other people don't want to hear about it, other people don't care, or you've got to move on, all that kind of stuff that you hear. And what keeps me going every day is being able to share his story, the impact that he had, the friends that still call me and tell me stories of stuff he did 8 years after he's been gone. Little messages I get from them, just it's really awesome.
And Jamie, it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing, brother. And to, I can't imagine. Okay, I can't imagine. And there's nothing I can relate to it. And I don't like when people act like that. Well, I know what you're going through, etc.
Yeah,
But the courage it takes for you to do that and celebrate, that, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
yeah,
I mean, that light that he had for 21 years is now shining through you and every other thing that you guys do. I mean, I love it, brother. I love it.
yeah. No doubt, man. I mean, just a few of the little lessons that I learned from him, man. I mean, I remember, being 14 or 15 years old. At the time, as a parent, we questioned it so much, but he would literally make statements all the time. We'd say like, what are you doing this for? Where are you doing that? And he's like, man, tomorrow's not promised. Might as well do it today. And I mean, this is at 14 years old. He's talking like this and just living life. And I feel like there's definitely some divine intervention there. Maybe he didn't know they wasn't going to be here forever, but it was put in him that you better enjoy it while you're here. And man, he visited a bunch of states when he was a teenager. Just took off on little trips with his friends, and now several of them travel a lot. And they tell me that they've got to get out and see the world, and they think about Ryan when they're at different places and how impressed he would be with the different places they've got out and seen the world as a big place and not to stay in this little shell, and make sure you get out and enjoy it. So, man, it's just it's incredible to be able to have something like that to pull on. And my other kids, his siblings, all have stories and ways that they do things in the world, because I lost a son, but they lost a sibling, and not a lot of people have to go through that. So just trying to comprehend how that works. We had a house full of kids when he passed away, and we had two kids that summer. So he passed away May 31st of 2016. My son and my stepdaughter were both getting ready to move away from home and go into college that same summer. So they're getting ready for one of the biggest transitions in their life. We've got this house full of kids, and we lose him, and then they're both moving out and trying to start life, not at home. First time you're out on your own, and then you lose your siblings. So there's so many stories of our family just kind of pushing through, and people we've leaned on. And I mean, man, I could probably talk to you for hours about some of the people that stepped up and really, showed us who they are, and helped us get through that time to at least just get to the next step. There's a lot of people out there that just help without being asked to, and then you learn to be one of those people. So when I hear somebody's going through it, I try to, reach out, do what I can, because there's a couple people that I knew they were friends, but man, you really learn what a true friend is going through something like that. Kind of changes your perspective on what a friend is, for sure.
But Jamie, like I said, man, I commend you to have the courage to do the event at the end in the fall. I think is when you guys do that and you celebrate his life and you talk about it, because that is also who they're working with at Team Steelman. This man is a father. This man is a grandfather. This man has lost a son. This man is doing a lot of things. He's experienced life, and that's what I wanted to do with this time that you had on the show here today is talk to people about what you do, talk to people a little bit about who you are. So as we kind of draw to a close here, Jamie, what are some things that maybe I didn't know to ask or something that you would want to share about, you, business, personal, you kind of take it from here and tell us something that I didn't know to ask.
Yeah, man. I mean, you just mentioned the blood drive that we do in Ryan's memory. It's going to be coming up in August this year. We are one of the largest private blood drives in the state of Tennessee every year. So when we first started doing the blood drive, we teamed up with Red Cross and they said, for a year or two, this will probably be a great thing. And then we'll partner you with a church or a bigger organization, to probably handle, because you'll have smaller and smaller numbers. And each year we've grown, which has been phenomenal. So this year we plan on having a lot more donations than we did last year. We've remained a private blood drive the whole time. So it's been just great. Community has reached out, people have stepped up. So, and yeah, you're right. Being a granddad, being a dad, all that kind of stuff goes so far because when I look at a client, I don't just look at them as a transaction and they're buying a house. Now, because of the experience and who I am, I get to ask them, why are you moving here? What are you going to be? People kind of say, what's your 5 year plan? What's your 10 year plan? But people like us in the mortgage business and the insurance industry, those are good questions. We need to know if you got something you plan to do in the next 2 years or the next 7 years so that we can kind of help you get there. More of that, all the information you were talking about. If you've got all the information, man, I can make a lot of great stuff happen for you. If I know just a minimum amount of information, hopefully I can get you in that home and I can, put a program together that works for you. But if I know everything, we can become partners, me with your family, and we can kind of figure out how to get you where you want to go. So it makes all the difference in the world just being able to sit down and see things from other people's perspective. I always tell people, try to meet people where they are and help them get to where they want to go. That's the biggest job that we've got. So it's not just really about finding them that house, but it's, I'm looking at things completely different now than I used to because I'm like, okay, when are we going to retire? Are all the kids going to be close by? They're going to be far away. We're going to do a family compound. What's the plan here so we can see all the grandkids all the time? So I think that's the
Yes.
biggest thing is just knowing, we're out here to help people and to figure out, what we can do to have an impact on their life. And we're going to definitely have a huge impact on the community. Ryan was always larger than life, and you knew it when he walked in the room. So that's kind of the impact we want to have. If you didn't recognize him when you came in the room before you left, you'd know who he was just because he was a talker and loved to. Some of his best friends have told me, man, that dude drove me insane, wore me out, but he was by far the best damn friend I've ever had, and I miss him like crazy. So, as a parent,
Yeah.
that's who he was too. Drove me crazy, and I'm like, kid, why aren't you thinking about tomorrow? Why aren't you thinking about, he doesn't have a plan. I say all the time, he had a 5 minute plan instead of a 5 year plan. What do we do in the next 5 minutes? So, it's good to have that perspective as a parent as you get older and think ahead, but sometimes it's good just to live life and enjoy the moment because tomorrow's not promised, man.
Yeah. Well, I've never done this on a show and I wasn't planning on doing it, but when you connect with somebody, and I don't know if partner, could you help me here? Live every day as it may be your last. Yeah. Okay. So, and I haven't shown that one in years, but that was my brother's last Facebook post before his accident. That was part of his post. So there's a lot that, but I wanted to give an example right here on air, unprompted, of how men can connect when they have the courage to speak up and we can help each other. And that's who you are. That's who I am. And that's how we met, Jamie. So I thought, hey, what a great example, you know, of just two dudes who happen to check it and see social media. How can we help each other? And it's grown into this connection. And I'm looking forward to, hey, when are we going to host this in August? Because I'm making some plans to be in Nashville that time anyway. So, hey, you know? Let's see where it goes and see how many more people we can help, because I need people like you in my life, Jamie. I appreciate you, brother. Yeah. Hmm. Absolutely, brother. So, you know, I want to thank you for your time today, and I want to thank you for your friendship, and I greatly appreciate you taking the time. And you also, as you told us earlier, you have people in place in your business so that Team Steelman's still operating while you're taking care of other people and being guests on shows. So, man, I'm impressed more about the business side now because I got to learn a lot about what you do there very efficiently, and the feedback thing, brother. Love that. So, thank you for sharing that as well. Jamie, thanks again, brother. And guys, if you got some value from this show, share it with somebody. If you guys are in Murfreesboro or around the Tennessee area, look up Team Steelman. Go give them a look if you're looking to get a house or make a move there. Give them the real information and they can help you. Uh, at the same time, follow him, follow the show. And if you guys share this show, reach out, let us know. Give me some feedback, good, bad, and all the above. I'm going to steal something from Jamie right here. I want some more feedback on this show. So thank you, brother. And thank you guys for watching Podcast on Wheels.